Let's move on to Somalia now. The country is on course to regain control over its airspace after 18 years of management by the United Nations International Civil Aviation Organization from Nairobi. That transition, however, will take a few months as flights to Mogadishu increase and business picks up following the expulsion of al-Shabab militants from the capital, Mogadishu. CCTV's Mohammed Hirmoge filed this report from a city that has already attracted direct flights by carriers like Turkish Airlines and Air Uganda.
For 18 years, the United Nations International Civil Aviation Organization has managed Somalia's airspace. The International Civil Aviation Organization had the mandate to facilitate the provision of basic air services to air transport operations through and within the airspace of Somalia.
I've confirmed through the signing of a declaration between the government of Somalia and the International Civil Aviation Organization in Montreal. We are positive that the transition from Kenya to Mogadishu will happen sooner rather than later. There's a number of measures being put into place that will move that forward. We've already started the transition process by putting some new equipment into Somalia.
The Somali government has on Monday received full control of its airspace from the UN-mandated Civil Aviation Organization. The federal government's control of the country's airspace might boost tax revenue. It is estimated that between 80 and 100 flights enter Somalia's airspace on a daily basis, and this might increase with sound stability prevailing. But even as the International Civil Aviation Organization officially hands over Somalia's airspace to the federal government, training and logistical concerns have to be met before the office could fully relocate to Mogadishu.
Well, it started back in 1994 when there wasn't a formal government of Somalia. So under the United Nations mandate, they said ICAO, as a civil aviation organization, were responsible for managing that airspace. So it's when there's no government. Now there's a federal government in place, we're in a position of transferring that airspace control back to Somalia.
Control of airspace is expected to ease air transport to and from Somalia with minimum restrictions. Turkish Airlines is the only international carrier that launched its direct flights to Somalia early last year.
By transferring the airspace back, it reinforces the message that you're a sovereign state, you have your sovereignty, and it's right and proper you control your airspace.
Mohammed, Hirmoge, CCTV, Mogadishu.
So where does this leave Mogadishu? Let's find out. CCTV's Mohammed Hirmoge is live in that city right about now. Mohammed, over the last couple of hours, ever since you broke the story, we understand that the enclave of Somaliland has voiced objections to the handover of control of airspace to Somalia's government. What's the latest on this story?
Rama, for the breakaway region of Somaliland to react so vehemently was both expected and predictable, because Somaliland happens not to disagree with Somalia, mainland Somalia rather, on almost anything, and particularly when this is about airspace control and management, as something that many people over here view is redemption for Somalia's lost statehood. That will be an affront to Somaliland in their belief, because they believe that a stable Somalia means no recognition for Somaliland, and Somaliland has since 1991 tried to convince the world that they are a stable government that is different from mainland Somalia. Having said that, there has been a steering committee that was formed in 2010, where Somaliland was part of it, together with ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, that was to look into the issue of giving back Somalia their airspace. And therefore today, when ICAO just decides to relocate and give back Somalia's airspace without involving Somaliland, then Somaliland fails. They have been shortchanged.
Indeed. Let's talk about the technical side of this. What exactly does this handover involve? I know it'll take a couple of months, but what exactly has to happen in that time frame?
Yeah, Rama, a UN body, the International Civil Aviation Organization, has had the control of Somalia's airspace since 1994, because with less and no, actually not even less, but with no Somalia's involvement, because there was no government, central government here. The central government had collapsed 3 years earlier, and therefore Somalia could not manage the airspace. Therefore, what now Somalia receives is a mandate to hold back that right, is a mandate to provide air service provision and air transport facilities within the airspace of Somalia. Therefore, the Somali government says before the end of the year, they will relocate 100 air service management staff from the office in Nairobi over here. And of course, through the facilitation of ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, will send another 100 to Nairobi for training so that they'll be able to provide these services fairly well.
Indeed, that's quite the logistics play right there. Thank you very much. That's CCTV's Mohammed Hirmoge. He's live in Mogadishu for us tonight on the story of handing over control of Somalia's airspace back to the government in Mogadishu.